Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Canyon. Welcome back to another one of those installments, what we call the Quickview series. Quick in terms of length? No. Quick in terms of, I just cut these tires out of the bag like 15 minutes ago. I opened the box that the bag came in about 15 minutes ago. We're going to do a test protocol that will have no indication of longevity, how are they going to work when they're feathered in, none of that. Take them out of the bag, fit them with an insert, mount them to a wheel, take them out and test them on the designated test vehicle for that size of tire. That is a Quickview. Today is not something that is uncommon. We test RC4WD drive around here quite often. What we don't routinely test is the new X2S3 compound, because that is the compound that for quite some time I referred to as the compound nobody asked for. But then it turns out I just needed to broaden my horizons, I suppose, because X2S3 seems to be the compound more suited to extremely high grip environments. When I was out in the rocks of the desert, X2SS was actually too soft. Like it gave too much, the environment was giving back too much grip. So X2SS was almost wasted. They would grab so hard that maneuverability, like you were flipping over backwards all the time. So X2S3 kind of goes in the same bucket with Proline G8, that being a tire in a compound for a higher grip environment. Now, what we do have today is a little bit of an oddball. 2.2s used to dominate the marketplace, and then the 1.9 came and absolutely dominated the marketplace. So nowadays, seeing newer release 2.2s that are the size of a 1.9, this is a 4.75 inch, or so they claim, 2.2 inch tire, the Mickey Thompson Baja MTZ. And I know that Mickey Thompson Baja MTZ is available in a whole bunch. They probably make it in every size. So know that this is the Z-T0085, described as RC4WD Drive Mickey Thompson Narrow 2.2 Baja MTZ scale tires. And the inclusion of that word narrow, that is important. And in case you don't believe it, this is an Injora S4 comp pin, and this is the Baja MTZ. So yeah, it is okay. You need something that shows it a little better. Here's a canyon trail, and here's the Baja MTZ. It is narrow. It is really narrow. And it's so narrow that it makes that 4.75 appear even taller than it actually is. When it's just sitting on the bench, they look really tall. We're going to come back around to that narrow right around now. This is the ordinary test set that we run on 2.2 wheels, because 2.2 wheels tend to be voluminous, and these are very much not. So when they say narrow, you're not going to be running the 30, are these 35? These are 28 millimeter rings on these wheels, which give the wheel an overall width of around 35 millimeters, the 35 millimeter width. I only have one set of 2.2s in stock running a narrower ring. These are running a 23 millimeter ring. You can also get 21, 22. It all depends on what brand you're buying, who you're going with. You're going to need a narrow rim for this. When you try to install the 28 millimeter beadlock ring, you can already see there's going to be an issue. It's basically wider than the lip area on the wheel. So I tried it. I put a foam in it. I set the rim down on it, and the rim is now wider at the bead than it is at the top. So you'd have a real, I don't know what the effect of that would be. So if you're going to run these on a narrow, run them. If you're going to run these, them being narrow, put them on a narrow wheel. What a difference the about 5 millimeters makes. I need to increase my catalog of available 2.2 wheels, because this is the only set, and these are not the type that I generally prefer. Like This wouldn't even fit on a typical portal vehicle like a TRX4 axle, and also it's not adjustable offset. So, but they're what we've got, and they will definitely work because I already mounted 3 of them. The included foam. This is one of those things. We try to stick to a default insert. We put in a Canyon Custom. We put in something like that. We're really deep into the zone of you can't do that. A, it's a 2.2. B, it's a 2.2 that's very skinny. 3, C3, it is a 2.2 that is short, skinny, everything. It comes with a foam that, I mean, you can tell that hole seems a little big, but it is not altogether that far from this foam. A little narrower. It's got a slightly bigger hole in the center. I would call this like a medium firm, not a full firm, not typical of what we get in an RC4-wheel drive, but a little firmer than a medium. I would call this like a medium soft. This is the foam that comes in a Canyon RT, the tire from the TRX6. And if you want a comparison, definitely more similar than different. A little bit taller. This is a 4.65. This is a 4.75. This is more of a traditional in that upper 40s width. I think this guy's going to be low 40s. And we are indeed going to mount it on the foam that came with it, which I think this might be only the second time that has ever happened with an RC four-wheel drive tire, because usually they give you sofa cushions. You know, their foams are typically about like that. So that ring just drops right in. And as I said, these are not typically easy to mount because you don't have 2 halves to press in like that. You've got a barrel and then a ring. And ordinarily, the lip will try to escape that ring, but I definitely noted with the first couple of these, it's not the easiest tire, but it's like, I don't know how to pick locks, but I would like to imagine that getting one of these mounted is something akin to picking a lock. You just kind of make sure that the ring is semi-situated all the way around, line up a hole, and then when you press, you can kind of feel that it's fallen in. Because the tire itself has a substantial beadlock lip. So once that lip is past the barrel, these are actually really easy to mount. No bubble juice. I imagine they would be even easier on face and barrel, like a typical. I know there are a lot of narrow 2.2s out there. I know that most people probably run narrower 2.2s than I do. I like 35s are typically as narrow as I run overall, and I've got several sets that are wider. Like if I'm running a 5.75 2.2, full-size tusk, 2.2 rupture, stuff like that, I like a big 30 because those things are we're talking about tires that are 50 to 60 millimeters wide. So a 35 millimeter wheel will kind of fit. This gives it just a very straight up and down profile. A 21 or 22 millimeter ring would pull it in a little. It would look more like this, how you get that real dome out on the face. So wheel selection is indeed going to impact how a tire performs, because it's going to control how much tension is put on that sidewall, how bubbled out the sidewall is, which is really going to affect how the shoulder works as well. I think this is a pretty neutral state. I think if we had mounted them up, because they'll mount up on these, they just look like, I guess, a diamond is what we would say. So they go, like, imagine that triangle with another triangle inverted upside down. That's what the tire looks like. Narrow at the top, goes wide, and then it goes back down again. So this is pretty straight, pretty trued out straight. And I think it's going to give a fair shot. Now, X2 S3 has never blown us away here. It's not awful. It's not the worst name brand compound we've seen. 118, 4 and 9/16. I question myself, like, is my thing out of adjustment? No, it's 118. It's 118. By 41. Like that's proper skinny. Typically in a class 2, you're going to see 46 to 48. You seldom see anything over 48, 49, unless you're looking at like Baja Pro X from Proline, which are relatively fat. But 41 for a 2.2, I want to say that's even skinnier than Bully Comps. What's the Proline one? Ibex. That's really skinny. These also feel quite soft. We opted to go with that foam because they do indeed feel pretty good. Like we've got the support. We have a very substantial shoulder lug. They feel pretty good on the side, like that stiffness of that foam. And because the foam is a bit of an undersize, we often see foams that are what I call oversize, undersize, where it is overfilling one dimension of the tire, like it's either too wide or too tall, and it's underfilling another dimension. Like this one would be underfilling on the inside because that opening is really big, much bigger than the outside diameter of the ring. Because like even if you see the Traxxas foam, these fit snug enough on the ring that like they don't even slip on the ring. This has a big hole in there. They appear to fill widthwise and vertically. I don't know how that float is going to work, but we're going to give it to them. We're going to give them the opportunity to show us were they right or wrong. They definitely sit like a 41. That rim looks ridiculous on there. I've long said the baseline can make anything look good, but I don't know. We might have found it today. They do fit the tire, and we will see how they do. That is very skinny and pretty tall for something of that height. That is even skinnier than a comp pen. So, Baja MTZ Narrow 2.2. Let's find out. As per usual, the drive back can oft prove to be relatively illuminating, and that is indeed the case here. It's largely a straight line until we have to make a sharp left turn to approach the piazza here. And the baseline, our friend down there went and stopped moving, and I was like, good God. And my first thought was, it's those rims, the flat back rims. It is not the flat back rims. I can tell you this and that. Let me see if I can orient this in such a way that I can display it to camera. What happens is he has so much steering throw, it shoves the this side not quite as bad. The tires are so skinny that we have actually the absolute maximum of steering throw. We have to be past 50 degrees. So there's a little bit of camming going on, and there's a little bit of the front end coming to a complete halt when we're not supposed to. So if we notice any oddities at full lock, I just have to be careful not to throw the steering all the way. So that you could hear a little bit of that's pretty good considering I don't have all my steering. This is definitely a problem that has not been encountered before. So we are likely going to hear some sounds. We're going to take it a little softer on acceleration. That forward drive was solidly okay. I think I'm going a little too soft on the amount of angle. How's our pull up here? That's pretty good. It's pretty okay. How's that? Oh, that's nice. That's nice. I'll tell you already. We're like 100 seconds in. OE foam in an RC four-wheel drive, we're definitely up there. They do drive narrow. These are definitely narrow. Anytime I go to, how close can I get? I can get to about 70% steering. But we're just trying to look at, primarily, we're trying to look at forward drive here. Oh, boy, when it when that tire goes into that link, it just stops. I would like to use a little bit more lock there. Yeah. So part of this may indeed be the wheel. We might be tucked in a little tighter than we like, and I can't change the offset. In terms of drive, though, we're solidly okay. Let's get around here. I got to do a nice soft turn. Yeah, I can get to about 70%. Let's go to like a 39. Yeah, 39 looks pretty good. Get it entered in. And there. Stuck in the riding the marker there. Yeah, of previous experiences with X2 S3, this is solidly better. This is doing better than most of what we've seen from X2 S3 in the past. I want to get another one of these because we went. Boy, we were using. If there was no slipper involved here, oh man. Okay, how about on the straight pull? Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. That is a strong start for X2 S3. We just have to keep that. Oh, it doesn't really do it in reverse. We're good in reverse. Okay, that's good. That's good to know. We will employ that. Typically, we have to use a fairly heavy chunk of the steering angle here. Right there. I'm afraid I'm going to get there. Oof. They definitely don't behave as tall as they are, I think because of the thinness. We're getting numerous instances where the only way I can describe it is falling in. Like I'm getting, particularly the rear tires, into gaps where I ordinarily wouldn't expect the rear tire to fall. Do we have enough pull up to come across here? A little more throttle. Cut it back the other way, a little more throttle. Again, in terms of forward drive, we're definitely doing better than X2 S3 of the past. To the point where I have, yeah, you can, full lock, you can still get it in reverse, but it's definitely safer. To the point where in the past I have consciously and deliberately avoided X2 S3 tires because of how they've behaved in the past. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Certainly above average, and up against other X2 S3s well above average. What do we do in the center? Stay right here. We don't need as much steer input here. Very nice. Very nice. A little bit of stutter. Obviously, single stage open cell is going to give us maximized forward drive. I don't know if you can get much more forward drive out of this. Just be aware, narrow, narrow, narrow. It's going to pull the tires in, so he's running a pretty narrow track. So I'm really anxious to see how this does on a side hill. But forward drive on these is 4X2 S3. I was going to say great, but I'd go fantastic on the forward drive for these. Just also very skinny. So I don't think the wheel is hurting the performance of the tire. It's just, it's hamstringing baseline a little because he has a way lot of steering angle with the caster flip. Now, do I think we could do better on a different wheel? Maybe. But in my own defense, the ratio of testing 2.2 versus 1.9, probably 3-to-1 in favor of 1.9s, maybe even higher. 1.9s dominate the market, so testing 2.2s. testing narrow 2.2s is not really a thing. I've got carbon zero offset wheels, which would have pulled him in even more. We had to go with what we had. Let's see right here. That looks good on the entry, unless it really transfers. And it really transferred. These are very skinny. So rolling the shoulder is going to be common. And we've got that foam. I just said I wondered what the foam was doing inside there. If everything is going well, get yourself to a side hill and ruin your day. We're not getting a lot of slip slide away. It's about the right amount. Let's see if we can orient that. I have no weight on the high side right now. And if I give it no input, yeah, we're so skinny. We're so skinny. We'll give him one more. We'll give him one more. So even on a 2.2, in terms of ground clearance, they act shorter than they are. But on side hill, they act taller than they are. To me, they look really tall for some reason. I think it's just that proportionate behavior. They're disproportionate. They look much taller because they're so skinny. The tread pattern itself is doing okay. As I said, I'm pretty sure RC4WD Drive does these in every flavor. We're rolling back to wheels. That's something. Like right there, forward drive, bam. But because they're so narrow, the PSI on that driver rear when we get it really loaded, we just revolve around the tire. So weight distribution, rim choice, insert choice, all of these things have to go in play in your mind when you're considering a tire. And this tire is OT6 KLR. It's so specific about its wheel, insert, vehicle, everything. I think that the utility of this tire really falls down a few notches. Forward drive is excellent, but well, we're starting to get into maneuverability. So we're going to find out what that looks like. There is confessedly a portion of the tire test protocol that is incidental. Like the location of obstacles kind of organically, what is it? There's a name for it in urban planning where you see that dirt path that cuts through the corner of something because humans will trend towards the easiest path between two locations. So when we bounce from obstacle to obstacle, we have a bit of that here, but we also have a bit of I walk. Where we just were is 20 feet from where we'll be next, but we walk all the way over here because we want to move up. We want to ramp that difficulty. Way more fallback than I would have liked. Way more fallback than I would have liked. In this section, the insert acts. Oh, these are so, I can tell. I'm getting that feeling again. I have felt this before with the Enduro, what we called Clerms, fake KLRs. I've felt it with real KLRs. There are a lot of tires that are very specific to the insert that's in the tire as much as they are specific to the tire. So what we're experiencing here, if your rig, Baseline's sitting over there, RTR, with his normal shoes on, just over 3,000 grams. Now that's kilo of wheelos. So he's about 2,000 grams without wheels tires. So he's not particularly heavy. 2,000 grams, 4.5 pounds. This particular wheel insert tire combo, not remarkably heavy. So is this foam, the question I'm trying to get through the bushes to get out of the weeds to get to is Is he too heavy for this insert or is he too light for this insert? And I have no answer for you when it comes to that, because there are moments when the insert feels too soft, like on the side hill, and there are moments here where the insert feels too firm, like when we were trying to climb that face on the other side of the beast. We definitely get to a point where we just kind of run out of traction. That is generally indicative of an insert that is too firm. That right there is kind of indicative of an insert that's too firm. I don't know if we can get our way out of this. They are peculiar. I can see a situation where these would be strong. But comparison is inevitable. So I'm thinking of this in terms of other tires, like say tires of the same width. There, for me, and I guess the rim is impacting that at least a little bit. I'm not looking at a tire that I would choose over another based on cosmetics. All this tire makes me want to do is try the normal 1.9 version of the MTZ, because I'm liking the tread pattern. I don't think I like the orientation. I don't think the rocks like the orientation of the tire as a complete whole. This has an opportunity to get a little ugly, as the maneuverability section here at Oblivion is, we need steer angle. I'm try to get up through here and not go full lock. That's not bad. Yeah, the forward drive on these is in X2 S3. Outstanding. We get to a point though if we just move in little bursts, we can get around. That looked pretty good right up until it didn't. That was both great and it was the great and terrible. We had an Oz maneuver there where it looked really good, and then the rear insert, like, it felt like it popped inside the rear tire, and the rear end just kind of shot around on us. Yeah, the movements are, some of the movements are abrupt. Yeah, I thought that I might be able to get used to the tire augering into the link, but you know what? As it turns out, I can't. The self-right on these is a little tough because we're so skinny. That's part rim. It's also part tire. 41 millimeters wide is in the... Oh, God, how do percentiles work? In thinness, it would be in the, like, 97th percentile. Maybe 3% of tires are skinnier than these. In a 2.2, how do percentiles work? Hey, math people, are these the 100th percentile? 100% of 2.2 tires are wider than these? They keep coming at you with the forward drive. They really do. That looked outstanding. I'm using barely any steering right there. We had a little drop away. That was that moment where the insert felt softer than it is. Almost like they're kind of, and then right there, it felt firmer than it is. We have something very confusing about this insert. It is well-behaved and a misbehavior all at the same time. Little spin of the ball, knock, spin, little spin of the ball. I was ready. The pen was hot to give a middling score here at Oblivion, and it pulled it back. It absolutely pulled it back. That little performance up on the corner around the edge, that was better than it's looked, honestly, at anything it's done so far. This is one of those tires. This is one of those tires that's going to be kind of all over the place. We might be in a situation where wet is the ultimate decider, because we're going to have a point differential between best and worst of like half a point from one obstacle to the next. And that is not something that we ordinarily encounter. So what I think is going to happen is we're going to arrive at a final score in that most infuriating way, which is really good at some stuff. Anything forward drive related, and I can't believe it's happening, except are we looking at X2, S3 having some kind of evolution? G8 from Proline has had a de-evolution. Old G8 is better than new G8. Is new X2, S3 better than old X2, S3? I don't know. Right here, real slow. Right there, that rear tire would have collapsed. And then we get over here and it's like, no, I'm not going to collapse. We're past the point of transfer here. I don't think it has quite enough. The front end is just not touching enough to get that down. I felt like I almost used full steering lock there. These tires are they evolving? Right there. Ah, okay. Everything that happened over at Oblivion, throw it away. That was the best that these have done at anything so far. That was genuinely surprising. And I've already stated multiple times that this tire's strength is its forward drive. Good. Absolutely no fallback right there. This is a forward drive tire. Its maneuverability, there is, I'm going to say it, potential hot take. We've sacrificed a bit of forward drive. No. We've sacrificed it, yeah, we've sacrificed a bit of everything because this tire is so skinny. I don't quite understand why this tire is 41 millimeters wide. I think if this tire, exactly as it is, if we could have mounted them on the 105s and they were, say, 46 millimeters wide, around the width of what we get from a 2.2 Canyon RT, I think we'd have something outstanding. 41 millimeter width, I don't think is helping this tire. This tire bumps really straight. We can get a bit of energy return out of it. Okay, we can get quite an outstanding amount of energy return out of it. But because we have exceptional forward drive for a 41 millimeter wide tire, we don't need to use that much bump. We go, whoop, whoop. I do a little double, whoop, whoop. Easy. Self-right could potentially be a problem because we generally turn to full lock to self-right. And because they're so narrow, boy, do they flop. Yeah, super narrow. They're out past the fenders. Let's try a forward. Yeah. I mean, and here's the thing. You would say, oh, well, wider offset. A wider offset tire rim is going to push the tire out, but then at full lock, it's going to hit the link earlier. You would actually have to increase the width, like you need a wider axle to not shove that tire into the link, or links that are closer together, or just a cascading list of problems. Many rigs and axles aren't going to have the problem with this. I can't even test forward whip, but my goodness, there are tires that we have to work. We have to make multiple attempts to get them to tip over. It's not terrible on the self-right, but everything else over here at this complex was measurably better. As a matter of fact, Oblivion was here, Daphne's third was here, self-righting is there, bump is there. We've got surface transition and wet, and we have a half a point between best and worst scores already. Half a point. Which means it's not going to get, we're not going to get a lofty final score because it's getting dragged down. And I think it's getting dragged down for reasons that are the nature of the tire. The compound is not the problem here. The tread pattern is not the problem here. The thickness of the carcass relative to the softness of the compound is not a problem here. What we have a problem here is they've made a tire that is 118 millimeters tall and 41 millimeters wide. The pin seeker is the closest thing I can think of, which was even narrower than this in a 1.9, and its biggest failings were its literal physical existence. So the hill is pretty packed. We're not going to be able to. Yeah, the MTZ tread pattern He's really strong. The amount of forward drive we're getting out of 41 millimeters wide is genuinely surprising. The amount of forward drive we're getting out of 40 millimeter wide X2S3, it makes me go. If you didn't tell me what it was, if I didn't know what we were testing, I would never. If somebody said, what do you think about a 2.2, 1.9 sized Class 2 X2S3 RC4 drive? No! They are, is this a unicorn? Is this a unicorn of the Charlie the Unicorn variety where it's just a little off? We did not achieve celestial alchemy with the 2.2 Baja MTZ. We've achieved, but look at that turn. I was at like 50% throttle. Look at that. There's like no chevron to these. Did I mention that? These tires are basically symmetrical. Mount them in either direction, it doesn't matter. Ordinarily, that's going to give us a somewhat unpredictable bump. But these bumped reasonably well. I don't know. I don't know about these. It's going to make me buy more RC4WD drive tires, which I guess is a plus and a minus. They drive shorter than they are sometimes, taller than they are at others. They have forward drive of a proportion that you generally do not anticipate from X2S3, or at least I don't. And then you want to rely, although I don't know where are you relying on that level of thinness? Who are these tires for specifically? I'm going to have to buy some other flavor of MTZ because I like the tread, I like the sidewall. I don't like the physical existence of these. They are too tall relative to their narrowness. They are too narrow relative to their height. I just said the same thing in two different ways. 41 millimeters wide is killing these. That's it. 41 millimeters wide is killing these. Speculation is easy, if not oft advised. But I speculate, without having them in hand, that a 1.9 version of this exact tire that is in a Class 2 orientation, so 4.65 to 4.75 inches tall, in that 46 to 48 millimeter width, able to be fitted with a typical dual stage 1.9 insert, will be operationally superior to these in probably every measurable capacity. I don't understand. What is the benefit of these being 2.2s? I see no benefit, because a dual stage will take up that floppiness of the sidewall, but will also give us just more tire to touch to the ground. And I think the biggest failing of these is they don't have enough tire to touch to the ground. I want a 1.9 MTZ. Nope, go easy side. There's a very small drop off, like that 10th drop off. So again, we're going to have a particularly high score following a particularly high score. But then in the middle there, these didn't do so good for a minute. Right there, we should be able to cut right here. But they drive like, I feel like I'm on Class 1s. Once they get through, another tire that if there's nothing mechanical impeding them, pew, off they shoot. These are weird. These are weird. Weird to the point where they're making me kind of upset. Like, I don't understand this tire. Why? No, I want to get right. Nice. Why is this tire a thing? So the inexplicable 2.2 RC four-wheel drive narrow Baja MTZ from four-wheel drive End the Day with 94.7, which ties them with the G8 Proline Toyo Open Country, unsurprisingly, and puts them a 1/10 of a point behind the Mix Racing fake Tusk, behind the Fusk. That sounds absolutely right. If you have no binding, if you have no clearance issues, anything like that, you're going to do fine. And then what's going to happen is you're going to get to a point where you find where the limitation of the tire jumps out in front of everybody, pushes the women and children out of the way, and goes, I'm 41 millimeters wide, and I'm going to fall over a lot because I won't roll my shoulder. So it's a tire that rests in this place, in a place. There are tires on the tire rack in the shop, and they exist there because they do the same sort of, look how weird I am. I'm a 2.2 that's 41 millimeters wide. They behave like that, and they are so insert specific on the vehicle that they're fitted to. Someone else might have these on a vehicle that's 500 grams one way or the other. 500 grams lighter, 500 grams heavier, 200 grams lighter, 200 grams heavier. And they'd be like, oh, my experience is completely different. I think that's absolutely valid. I think that in the terms of how we try to keep the test protocol like a test, beyond just writing things down, we try to keep the test protocol as a test, which means we try to use the same conditions, the same mechanisms and mannerisms all the way through every test. And this landing on the same score as the Proline Toyo G8, 100%. Proline Toyo G8, skinny, about the same height as this. A lug patterning that's not that far off of this, but the Toyo is a 1.9, and I would take the Toyo over these. I want to see these in a 1.9. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to look it up on the internet. And yes, indeed, they well and truly do exist. The RC four-wheel drive Mickey Thompson 1.9 Baja MTZ P3 4.6 Z-T0123. But wait, there's more. That Baja MTZ comes in X2 SS. Well, dang it. This dang old episode gonna make me spend money. Aw, dang it. I did not know. Do we have a positive takeaway from this? Absolutely. I think if you own these and they haven't been shining for you, you haven't found the right combo yet. You need more or less weight at the axle. You need an insert that's a little better to the vehicle. You need do I think that there would be a performative difference if we put a 19 millimeter wide beadlock ring in there instead of that one? Yeah. Do I think that there are any advantages to this tire being a 2.2? No. Do I think that this would be your pick if you run exclusively on very high traction desert rocks? Also, probably no. This tire is an absolute oddball. Does the internet tell me how wide the others are? 117 by 47. Oh, man. And they're X2SS. I am ordering a set of those soon. Very soon. Because I imagine those will be tremendous. Little side note, not applicable to this. We have a vehicle here called the Tranquish that runs on RC four-wheel drive Baja Claws, which are one of my, if not my favorite, scale tires. I would be willing to try the X2SS Class 2 Baja MTZ on that rig because I think I might like them as much or more. What? So these tires have given me a vision, a hopeful, a looking forward to better times vision of the future. These are weird. I have no idea who needs these. Especially now that from an internet search a few moments ago, I found out that you can get the same height, but 6 millimeters wider in X2SS instead of X2S3 on a 1.9. Like everything I just said is better. There is a significantly better version of this tire. This one, I have no idea. I have no recommendation. If you already own them, okay, I do have a recommendation. If you already own them, you can probably make them better if they're not working for you. If they are working for you, though, don't mess with them. just ride that tide as far as it will take you. The too narrow Baja MTZ. What an absolute weirdo. Like an anomaly among tires that had this opportunity to become a unicorn, but instead just acts kind of weird. 94.7 for an RC4-wheel drive on its stock insert is not to be discounted. Pretty good, but certainly not my first, second, third, fourth, or fifth choice, you know? That's the feeling at the end of the day. I hope there was some takeaway that you could use, something you found valuable or pertinent to your situation. And with that, I indeed thank you once again. I invite you to tune in for whatever we have next. Put them comments down below. In between now and when we meet again, please, one and all, do your very best to have a good one, everybody. We will see you again here real soon from the canyon. Baseline doesn't know what to make of it. He's like, these tires are things that exist, and they were what they were, and they are what they are, and we've been where we've been, and my train of thought has run out. I'll see you next time.